Yep.
Just take pictures of those slides. Okay, so time is to
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
Take pictures of the slides if you want. I can complain. Okay, so just for a recap, because just want to make sure if you guys were listening, some of you guys had notes. If you had notes with Elliot, bring them out now. So, can anyone name the 3 really important guys? Achilles, Agamemnon, and I don't know. Maybe you say. It's Odysseus. It would be really funny if his name was Odyssey, because then it would be, you know, we're talking about the Odyssey. It'd be like calling him the Will Smith. Whatever. Anywho, so you're going to be doing a very brief intro into the Odyssey and a little bit about Greek culture here. So, first we have to talk about what the epic poem is. So this is not like epic, it's more of epic in the span of just size and craziness that they go through. So the Odyssey is probably one of the most famous epic poems we have in Western literature. As in, it's been around since, rough guesstimate, 700 BCE. So it's old, but we still talk about it. So this is meant to be spoken more than it is to be read, because a lot of writing kind of disappeared for a while, but it's kind of hard to lose words. All right, so what makes a hero? So we had that little quick write last class period we had. So in the context of epics, our heroes are going to be well-known characters of high social position, and they're supposed to be representative of their culture. Now, with Greek society, it was almost always kings. Almost always. And it wasn't just because of epics, but it was because they also had tragedies. With tragedies, it was always some big famous guy does something dumb, and we all feel bad for him. Long story short. So, Odysseus is the king of Ithaca. Now, if we look on the map of Greece, it's this teeny tiny little island way over here. Like, you wouldn't even notice it. Like, if you looked at a world map, you wouldn't be able to see it. It's this just little speck off the coast. You get a better picture of it later, I think. So, second bit of being a hero. So, when it comes to being heroes in epic literature, there's always, big, strong, great feats of strength, but you also have to be smart because, well, you just kind of go in blindly charging ahead, you usually die. Unless you're Achilles, in which case nothing kills you except for a tiny arrow to the back of your heel. So, with the case of Odysseus, he was really special because he was super smart compared to a lot of the other Greeks. They say, oh yeah, we have Achilles, who's really brave. Not the brightest guy out there. Doesn't really think things ahead. Or Ajax, who's supposed to be, super strong, could probably lift a boat and flip it over. But he was also kind of dumb as a rock. Then we have Odysseus, who's smart enough to think, what was that first little prophecy that he managed to slip away from? Do you guys remember? Right back there? Yeah.
Okay, so the prophecy was the first man to touch land was going to die. So he threw his shield over and he went on it, but he didn't touch land. So he touched
Exactly. Smart guy. Doesn't want to die first. So, the next bit is hubris. Hubris. This is a word you guys are going to need to remember because it is essential to Greek mythology. Hubris. So that's Hubris. Hubris is basically thinking, I am so good at this, I could probably beat the gods at this. You know that one guy, how many of you guys play multiplayer games online? I'm saying a lot. You know, there's that one guy who says, yeah, I am the most elite, I am the best carry on this team. You guys couldn't do anything without me. Then you just watch him get curb stomped because no one wants to help him. And he realizes he can't carry the whole team on his own. So, with Odysseus, we have that wonderful, I can totally ignore the god of the oceans here and just kind of cruise on my way. can't really do that. That's why he spent 10 years floating around. And, okay, I just also want to see a little show of hands. Who's heard that wonderful story about flying a little too close to the sun? Yes. Icarus is the story of a guy who had wings of wax and feathers and said, I can fly, I can defy gravity. The heavens are mine. Oh yeah, the sun melts wax. Yeah, sloosh. Did not make it through that. And there's so many stories where someone says, I bet I can beat the gods at this. They can't. Doesn't work well. That's why we have spiders. So, supernatural. In epics, supernatural is always there. There's never just a kind of a mundane road trip back home. There's always got to be something big and crazy. Whether we have Poseidon over here trying to do like an atomic elbow on this boat and see if he can break it, or just flip it over for no other reason other than he just really doesn't like them. Or it could be, big giant saying, I'm gonna eat all you guys because I feel like it. Or, giant whirlpools, multi-headed monsters, and so many other perilous things that we will get to in good time. So, another thing with epics, gods are always involved. Remember how many gods were getting involved in the Trojan War? Do you guys remember a couple of them? Anyone want to share a few that they remembered? Odysseus was not a god. He was descended from one, but he wasn't one.
Zeus.
Yes. Zeus was involved. Yes, Hera was involved.
Apollo was there.
Yes. We all remember what happened with Apollo. Ronan. Yeah, Athena showed up. Yep. A whole bunch of gods all of a sudden popped up for this one story because somebody decided to play a prank at a wedding. So, scale in terms of how big the journey itself is in an epic. So, I'm going to give you guys some context here. So, Turkey is this little green speck right here. So, right around that edge right here is right around where Turkey is. And if we scroll all the way over here, that's Spain. So this is, in a tiny little sailing boat, and it took a 10-year journey back and forth all over the place. You only needed to sail this little corner right here. But what would an epic be if it was, a couple days trip forward and back? So, many locations over a wide area. In some settings, this can be supernatural places, like it's a little hard to see down here, but that little spot in Spain is where they believe the entrance to the underworld was. So yeah, they have to go downstairs for a bit. So, mentioned earlier, this is all done in performance. You did not read this. You had to speak it. So, I don't know, are we actually going to have you guys read this aloud, or are we just going to have you guys summarize it?
Maybe we will. What a great idea.
See, a little bit of nervousness out there.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably going to be a lot of just, can you tell us what happened? Not have to read the whole thing, because some of that language, even for me, can be a bit tricky.
Mm-hmm.
So, with that, so now I want to ask you guys a couple of questions. This is just, see some of you guys writing notes, some of you guys just staring. So, are there any epic stories you guys can think of that have happened in the last few years in movies, books, etc.?
The Percy Jackson series?
Yes.
It's like the series that branches off from there from Percy Jackson.
Heroes of Olympus.
Yeah.
A little bit. Before you go.
Harry Potter.
Mm.
Yeah, I guess so, yeah. I mean, it's mostly in Britain, but there's a lot of pretty crazy stuff they do. Yeah, I think I saw someone on this side. Heather?
Oh, what about, what's that one animated movie, Hercules? Isn't that kind of stuff?
Not quite. I mean, yes, there's a lot of fighting monsters, but he sticks specifically to one small area. And oh boy, the stories I could tell you about Hercules that they didn't put in the movie.
Pirates of the Caribbean.
I actually would say yes.
I would too.
There was a lot of sailing all over the place, and they had to fight crazy monsters.
Mm-hmm.
And Davy Jones with this really creepy beard. You could argue the Emperor's New Groove. It's a big long journey back and forth where they have to face lots of perils and deal with magic that turns you into a llama.
Mm-hmm.
How about Lord of the Rings?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I forgot about that.
That's a pretty big one. Huh? Yeah,
Oh,
Star Wars would
mhm.
count as one if you really think about it.
Game of Thrones.
Oh yeah, Game of Thrones would definitely count. That's pretty up
Mm-hmm.
there.
The Walking Dead.
Understand.
Yeah, there's epics have been around forever. We can go on forever.
Walking Dead.
Pink Panther would technically be a comedy mystery, not so much.
Oh my
Black
gosh.
Panther could be. I still need to watch that.
The
It's
Walking
making me
Dead.
feel embarrassed that I haven't seen it yet. So, back to hubris. How often do you guys remember seeing hubris pop up in movies or stories?
Wait, is Hubris a dude?
No,
Zeus is a hubris.
Zeus is not hubris.
Mm-mm.
Is Hubris a dude?
That hubris was
Zeus is a dude.
Mm-mm.
Hubris an idea?
Hubris is an idea.
Okay.
Hubris
Quality.
is saying, I am so good at something that I am above what normal people can do.
Right, just like there's a picture of a dude when you're explaining it.
No, and you gotta pay attention to what I'm saying, not just what's on the screen.
Mm.
So, who can think of a situation where someone said, I am that good, and thinking that they were that good, it was the cause of all their problems? Did anyone see Age of Ultron?
Hey.
Now remember, what was that story about?
It was about Ultron, bro.
Yeah, why did Ultron show up?
Because, what's it called? Weren't they like fighting it?
He thought he was too OP, but he wasn't.
Because Tony Stark Iron Man said, hey, I am that good of a mechanic, I can just make a robot do my job for me.
And then he made him. And then he
Did not work. He was not that good.
What about the Civil War?
Oh,
Avengers.
Avengers Civil War?
Iron
They
Man
were
thought he
fighting
was
each
too good.
other.
Well, that's just fighting each other. What would the hubris be?
Oh.
Okay,
Wait, it's when that
oh,
one
that
thinks
was-
he's better or something, isn't it?
No, it's not just when you think you're better, it's when you think you are the best. Alright, I'm gonna give you guys a little tiny story time for an example.
Yeah.
So remember how I mentioned spiders a second ago?
Speeders.
Spiders, scooters, spiders, speeders, etc. So, a long time back, there was a woman named Arachne,
Oh yeah.
and she thought she was the best weaver ever.
Oh,
Best.
yeah.
Dina said nope.
And then she said, I bet I could beat Athena in a weaving contest. And Athena said, you're on. And Athena won and said, well, because you got so uppity, here's your punishment. You're gonna weave forever. I'm turning you into a tiny spider. And that's why we have spiders. Constantly weaving forever, and kinda creepy up close. Definitely not pretty.
Some of them.
Japanese spider doesn't really want
I know some of them can be kinda cute, but that's, you know, not the spiders the Greeks are doing.
Guardians of the Galaxy when the one pink part that you know what I mean when she said, hey, I could totally hold the power stone.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I can totally hold the stone.
Good one.
Explode yourself.
Good one.
That's actually a very good one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was Guardians of the Galaxy. Yep.
Isn't like hubris like an idea of like being a narcissist?
Mm.
It's
Oh.
very close, and you're actually really close to that. You are really close, but that's just
Because
narcissism.
there's like a really tale about like what's it called, the guy named Narcissus?
It was Narcissus.
Yeah,
Who got
and he
turned
was
into a
really
flower because he got a chance to fall in love with the first thing he saw, and he saw his reflection, and just stared at it until he died.
Whoa.
Like in the latest Thor movie, like in the very beginning, there was like a villain that like, I guess like captured Thor, and like he thought he was better than him, and he could kill like the whole like planet thing, and then like, yeah, like Thor killed him. So I don't know. Their villains
Sort
in that
of.
movie are really forgettable. But
Hubris is when you have someone who walk up to Thor and say, arm wrestle me right now, I beat everybody in my hometown. The Hulk.
The Hulk.
No, now we're starting to kind of go off in different tangents, just listing off awesome heroes. So,
Good.
things to remember about hubris. And I actually want you guys to write this one down because it is going to show up later, and I really want to make sure you guys can catch on to this.